Did you know that Staten Island is New York City's only borough without a subway connection? That's right, and it's the reason why New Yorkers refer to this area as the Forgotten Borough. Even so, residents and officials have advocated for a subway to be built there for over a century, and although attempts have been made, they only resorted in portals to nowhere and major political strife. So why doesn't Staten Island have a subway? Stay tuned to find out, as today we discover the history of New York's Forgotten Borough. I'm your host, Ryan Socash, and you're watching It's History. The New York City subway system stands as a testament to human ingenuity and urban innovation, shaping the city's bustling landscape and serving as a lifeline for its millions of inhabitants. Its inception in 1904 with the Interborough Rapid Transit Company, or IRT, marked the beginning of a revolutionary transportation network that would redefine urban mobility. From its humble beginnings, the subway network underwent rapid expansion, connecting various boroughs and neighborhoods. The early 20th century saw the extension of lines into Brooklyn and Queens, broadening the accessibility for residents and commuters. The competing Brooklyn Rapid Transit Company, BRT, also played a pivotal role in expanding the subway's reach, pushing further into neighborhoods and facilitating easier travel. Interesting facts punctuate the subway's history. For example, the construction of the first subway line took a mere 4 years, a remarkable feat considering the technological limitations of the time. As the network grew, so did its ridership, reaching impressive figures like the record-breaking 2.3 billion annual riders in 1946. The subway's expansion to different boroughs was a testament to the city's growth and evolving needs. However, despite its extensive reach, there remains a notable exception: the absence of a subway line in Staten Island. This intriguing omission puzzles many, especially considering the interconnectedness of the city's other boroughs. So why doesn't the subway reach Staten Island? Well, the answers lie in a complex blend of historical, geographical, and logistical factors, each contributing to the subway's divergence from this particular borough. One primary challenge lies in Staten Island's geographical separation from the rest of the city. Situated at the southernmost tip of New York City, the island is delineated by the Upper New York Bay, posing a formidable barrier for subway expansion. Unlike the other boroughs, which are geographically connected, Staten Island's isolation presents a unique hurdle for implementing underground infrastructure. Historic factors have also contributed to Staten Island's subway deficiency. In fact, when the subway system was initially designed and developed in the early 20th century, Staten Island's population was relatively smaller compared to other boroughs. As a result, the priority for subway expansion initially focused on areas experiencing higher population densities and more immediate transportation needs. Financial considerations have also played a pivotal role in the absence of a subway connection to Staten Island, because constructing subway lines, especially across bodies of water, demands substantial investments. In other words, the cost-benefit analysis, coupled with Staten Island's comparatively lower population density at the time the Great System was being developed, dissuaded authorities from pursuing such an expensive venture. Moreover, it needs to be pointed out that Staten Island already had alternative transportation options that somewhat mitigated the urgency for a subway connection. For example, the Staten Island Railway, established in the mid-19th century, provides a rail link between St. George on the island's northeastern tip. Then, we have the Staten Island Ferry Terminal, offering a vital connection to Manhattan. Well, these solutions don't replicate the reach and efficiency of a subway system. It has historically sufficed as a means of transportation for the residents. That being said, New York did attempt to build a subway extension to Staten Island on a few occasions, and on all counts, the initiatives failed miserably. One notable effort was the proposed Staten Island Tunnel project in the early 20th century. This initiative aimed to construct a subway tunnel connecting Staten Island to Brooklyn. In the 1920s, there were serious considerations and preliminary plans for the tunnel, reflecting the growing needs for improved transportation between Staten Island and the rest of New York City. However, despite initial enthusiasm, the project faced insurmountable hurdles. The sheer magnitude of engineering required to dig a tunnel across the upper bay of New York presented formidable challenges, the type of challenges that were rarely attempted in this era. Hence, the immense cost, technical complexities, and the lack of sufficient funding eventually led to the abandonment of the Staten Island Tunnel project. Another significant but unsuccessful attempt to expand Staten Island's transit infrastructure was the Staten Island Rapid Transit Railroad, or SIRT, which laid out expansion plans in the mid-20th century. The SIRT, an existing railway on Staten Island, proposed extensions and improvements to create a more comprehensive system. Had this been achieved, the network would have offered better connectivity with Staten Island and potentially integrated the region with the broader subway system. However, as was the case with the tunnel project, financial constraints and shifting priorities with the transit planning landscape resulted in these expansion plans being shelved, leaving Staten Island without the anticipated subway connections. Today, remnants of these failed subway projects are sparse and often limited to historical documents, plans, and discussions archived in transportation records. Now, although the reasons Staten Island doesn't have a subway are logical, there is one factor that doesn't exactly resonate with this story. You want to guess? There are both active and abandoned tunnels found throughout Staten Island. To clarify, Staten Island does have a few abandoned tunnels, remnants of earlier infrastructure projects or industrial endeavors, but these aren't directly related to the proposed subway tunnels for the failed Staten Island Tunnel project. However, they do demonstrate that it's not impossible to build tunnels within the borough. One significant example is the Atlantic Terracotta Company tunnel system. Located in the neighborhood of Tottenville, these tunnels were used by the Atlantic Terracotta Company, a manufacturer of architectural terracotta, and as you might imagine, these underground tunnels were used to transport their goods. The company was a prominent manufacturer of architectural terracotta, a material extensively used in construction for decorative facades, ornamental elements, and architectural details. Believe it or not, it was thanks to these tunnels that masterpieces such as the Woolworth Building, the Flatiron Building, the Philadelphia Museum of Art, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Chicago Tribune Tower, and the George Washington Bridge all had such beautiful terracotta. The tunnels were a crucial part of the Atlantic Terracotta Company's operations in the early 20th century. They served as an underground network for transporting raw materials and finished terracotta products and facilitating the movement of workers within the facility. These tunnels allowed for efficient logistics and transportation, ensuring a streamlined production process for the company. As for what remains of these tunnels today, much of the Atlantic Terracotta Company's infrastructure has either been repurposed, demolished, or reclaimed by nature. The tunnels themselves have largely fallen into disuse and disrepair over the years. Some sections might have collapsed or have been sealed off due to safety concerns or redevelopment efforts in the area. While remnants of the Atlantic Terracotta Company's tunnel system might still exist beneath the ground in Tottenville, the accessibility and visibility of these remnants to the public are limited. That being said, the tunnels, if accessible by officials, could potentially contain historical artifacts or remnants of the company's industrial operations. Another example of abandoned tunnels can be found on the former Fresh Kills landfill. Well, not tunnels in the traditional sense. There were extensive networks of underground infrastructure related to the landfill's operations, including systems for managing gases produced by decomposing waste. As the landfill closed and the area underwent redevelopment, these underground structures were either repurposed or sealed off. Now, in terms of active tunnels, there are several that we need to showcase. For starters, we have the Staten Island Railway Tunnel, which runs beneath the St. George neighborhood. This tunnel serves as a crucial link for the Staten Island Railway, connecting St. George Terminal to the railway's further southern stations. The fact of the matter is that few even recall the proposed tunnel between 69th Street and Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, and St. George, Staten Island, as the city did a fantastic job at concealing any trace of the groundbreaking. A notion perhaps best recalled by a City Limits article from 2019, reading, "When living on Shore Road in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, friends and I would look to no avail in attempting to find the abandoned site filled in decades earlier. At that time, the estimated cost for the tunnel project was $60 million. Flash forward 90 years, and it would cost $6 billion today." Another concept was to build a subway tunnel connecting St. George with either the One South Ferry or our subway line Whitehall Street subway stations. This second concept, which would require an even longer tunnel, would cost $10 billion. The article continues, revealing just how vulnerable Staten Island is when it comes to transportation. In 1953, the old NYC Board of Transportation passed on control of the municipal subway and bus system, including all of its assets, to the newly created New York City Transit Authority. That same year, the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad threatened to terminate all service on Staten Island due to financial losses. New York agreed to begin providing public subsidies for the continued operation of the Tottenville line, along with the end of service on the North and South Beach branches. However, in 1971, the passenger operations of the former B&O Railroad were sold to New York City for $3.5 million. Later that year, New York City passed on control to the Metropolitan Transportation Authority. The MTA created a subsidiary, the Staten Island Rapid Transit Operating Authority, which is managed by the MTA, in other words, New York City's Transit Department of Subways. Anyhow, since that time, primary MTA funding has been used for capital improvements. In recent times, the MTA initiated using U.S. Department of Transportation Federal Transit Administration funding for capital investments, including station upgrades. And so the story goes, there is just a continuing series of feasibility studies sponsored by various government agencies and public officials over decades to improve transit connections for Staten Island residents. And although they haven't brought a subway, they have generated money for consultants along with free publicity for elected officials who promise a bright future and in the meantime leave you holding an empty bag. In other words, the concept of a Staten Island subway will stay buried. The article concludes by claiming it would take a miracle for a subway to ever reach Staten Island, requiring a minimum of 90 years for the concept to become a reality, leaving me to think that a subway connection to Staten Island probably isn't in the cards for this lifetime. Either way, I thank you all for watching, and a special thanks to our channel members for making this video a reality. Find out how you can support the channel by clicking the join button. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Until next time, I'm Ryan Socash, signing off.